Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin, alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how are we doing today?
How you doing, buddy?
We're doing. Oh, it's great. Oh man, we have so much to talk about. What a weekend of football!
Yeah, it was a great week, man. A bunch of blowouts.
There were about 8 blowouts last week, so we did not expect some of them, but some of them were pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, there were definitely a bunch of interesting games. Bunch of head scratches when it comes to these blowouts, though.
Yeah, and we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna give you our recap, and then we're gonna be talking about some games for this upcoming week. But let's start with the recap of last week with the Thursday night game, and that was Tampa Bay and Philadelphia playing. Tampa Bay won 28-22, but Philly scrapped. Tell me, what do you think of Philadelphia so far?
Philly fights. We're always going to know that Philly fights, but they always find ways to beat themselves. Whether it be that they have disciplinary issues with late penalties that give up dumb yards, whether it be going for hard counts and going off sides late times, whether it be giving up clutch yards and necessary points, whether it be gassing yourselves before the fourth quarter. All of which happened.
Yeah.
All of which happened at a certain point in that game against Tampa.
Yep.
So it's just Eagles going to eagle at this point.
Yeah, Philly's a very scrappy team. It was nice to see them keep it kind of close with the Bucks, but ultimately we all knew the Bucks were going to win that game. But let's move on to the slate of Sunday games, starting with Carolina and Minnesota. We actually saw we're watching that game and saw the end of it, and man, that was one hell of an overtime.
That was one hell of an
Kirk Cousins played phenomenal that game, and Minnesota's looking good. Tell me, what do you think of Minnesota so far this year?
Possible wild card team.
Ooh.
Again, we were talking about in the beginning of the season that they were kind of one of those teams lingering in the areas.
Yeah.
They're playing real well.
They are.
That defense still has some flaws. We'll brush up on that. But that offense, man, they're running and they're cooking and they're playing real well.
Kirk Cousins is playing. He might be having his best year so far, but
I can agree with that.
He's playing absolutely unbelievable. But that game was very, very interesting to watch, especially Sam Darnold coming in with a 99-yard drive to tie it. And so it was crazy. It was an absolute great game to watch, and I implore anyone to check out the highlights if you missed that game, because that was a wild one. But I want to talk about another wild one that actually happened in the early morning, and that was actually the Jacksonville and Miami game in London. The Jags are pretty much home field advantage when they're in London because the NFL sends them there so often and so frequently that they might as well be the London silly nannies at this point. But with that being said, Tua played very well. That was a really fun game to watch, especially at the end there. What were your thoughts on that?
Definitely a heartbreaker, man.
For the Dolphins, absolutely.
Yeah, for the Dolphins. And, that was a gut-wrencher for Jacksonville, too. They had to fight till the very last second. And I watched the final drive. I thought Miami was going to win that game. And then, spur of the moment, turnover happened, and Jacksonville decided, you know what, this game is over now.
Yeah.
And it silenced a lot of people, Thankfully, it put an end to a 20-game loss streak. 20 games. It took going across the pond to win a game. I want that to be known.
They had to go to their second home field advantage.
They had to go to Europe to find a win.
For those of you who don't know, there's a hilarious tweet online where the Jacksonville Jaguars tweeted after winning their first game last year in week 1, and they said 1-0, we ain't satisfied.
And they lost 20 straight.
From last year into this year, and it.
I wonder if they're satisfied now.
They might be. They might be satisfied with 1 at this point. But I want to move on to one of the blowouts that was a game that actually we talked about last week, and that was the Ravens and Chargers. And I'll be honest, I did not expect a blowout in that game. I thought that was going to be a very close game between Lamar and Herbert because both quarterbacks are very dynamic, but the Ravens defense showed up and showed out against the Chargers, and I'm so happy that they were getting right back on track. Because you and I were talking about it. I said going into this game, the Ravens had the ranked 24th defense in the league. And I'm like, no, their defense is a lot better than that. And they ultimately showed it against the Chargers, and they're looking pretty good so far. But is this just an anomaly for the Chargers?
I absolutely hope so. I'm going to call it that, but I definitely hope so. That was, to recollection, I think that was the worst game I've ever seen Justin Herbert play.
That was. In his professional career.
In his professional career, that is probably the worst game I've ever seen him play. It was the sloppiest game I've seen the head coach of the Chargers coach. Mm-hmm. It was a sloppy game.
Brandon Staley.
Yeah, Brandon Staley. Mm-hmm. It was a sloppy game for the Chargers. And now that's kind of to be expected by a team that has been evolving so quick. They're going to trip on themselves a little bit here and there. I was not expecting a 34-6 blowout.
No.
I was expecting, even though they have hiccups here and there, I was expecting at least a little bit of competition. Maybe a 34-21, maybe a 33-30.
Yeah,
I was
something
expecting
like that.
Something a lot more competitive coming from the Chargers. But, I can see them getting right back on track next week. So.
And that was just one of the blowouts that happened last week. Another blowout that happened last week was actually against the Los Angeles Rams against the New York Giants. And we're going to be talking about the Giants this week because they actually play Carolina this upcoming week. And so we're going to be talking about that game. But, man, tell me, we expected the Rams to win that game. But we didn't expect the Giants to look that bad. Tell me, what are your thoughts on that game?
The Rams embarrassed them.
They absolutely embarrassed them.
They put them under a spotlight, and they were like, here, this is how you embarrass the Giants. In every way, shape, and form. Running the ball, passing the ball, defending the ball, special teams. In every way, shape, and form, they made the Giants look like children.
Yeah.
Absolute children. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of problems in the Giants, and the Rams exploited each and every one of them. Picked them apart play by play.
Yeah. It was not a competitive game from the start. It's funny because the Giants started off with 3 points. They had a field goal to start off the game, and the Rams scored 38 unanswered points, and the game was just...
I'm pretty sure they went scoreless until the end of the fourth.
Until that garbage time touchdown and the 2-point... It was garbage. It was garbage at that point. But let's move on. There was another blowout that I want to get to, and that was the Indianapolis Colts against the Houston Texans. Now, we don't expect the Texans to be that good of a team. But, man, the Colts showed out. Jonathan Taylor looked really good, the running back for the Colts. He looked really good. And I was impressed by him watching those highlights. But, man, Indy, are they picking up steam now?
I don't know that this game can be a conviction to that. This is kind of like the same argument a couple of weeks back. I forgot who was playing Houston, but it was like, how did they play good, or is it that Houston is just that bad? Mm-hmm. Just like with the KC defense.
Yeah.
Was it was it them
playing that bad?
Right. Yeah. Or was it the other team playing
that good? Yeah.
So I want to see Indy do that again against a more competitive defense.
And they are. They're going to be against the 49ers this week on the primetime game on Sundays. And that's going to be one of the games that we are going to be talking about later on in this episode. But I actually want to move on to another. It ultimately wound up being a blowout, and that was the Kansas City Chiefs, I guess, against the Washington football team. KC did not look good. They were a team of two halves. They were very sloppy, and they looked like the Chiefs as of late in the first half. But in the second half, they got it going. And they shut out Washington the remainder of the game in the second half. Is KC getting back on track?
Again, this is a hard game to really confirm or deny that because of just how stagnant that first half was. Mm-hmm. If Taylor Heineke can keep up with you, Patrick Mahomes, there's problems there. Yeah. You shouldn't have to kick into some other realm of your athletic ability to try and pull away against Taylor Heineke. You were known as a cheat code not 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. What's going on?
It's, you know what it is? I believe that Patrick Mahomes is pressing, and we're going to get into this a little bit more later, but I think in his mind he knows that his defense is not going to get him there. It's not going to win him games. So in his mind, he's like, I have to score 30-something points this game. Otherwise, we have no chance to win. And it seems that the KC defense is playing so poor that just seems to be the case. But we're going to get more into Kansas City later on. But I actually want to move on to the owner of the Bears, actually.
Apparently he's partial owner.
Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. But Green Bay Packers won 24-14 against the Bears. But Chris Paul, would you want to tell our audience what happened?
Yeah, he decided to, and he actually had an explanation for it. He scored a rushing touchdown, and from what he said, he looked up into the stands, and there was a woman giving him the double bird. So he screamed back at her, "I own you, and I always have." Now, the reason being is I actually looked up as to how many times they won against the Bears. I wrote it down.
Yeah.
It was like out of 21 times that they've met, they won 19 of them.
I believe the record is Aaron Rodgers in his career is 22-5 against the Bears.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
That is ridiculous.
So, he owns the Bears, and actually, for those of you who do not know, so he screamed, "I own you! I own you!" So someone took it upon themselves to edit the Bears ownership on Wikipedia, saying that Aaron Rodgers is the owner of the Bears. And obviously it's not there anymore. But the fact that someone did that, I want to give a shout out to you because you are the real hero.
You are the real MVP there.
You know what's up. So, but with that being said, I actually want to move on to another blowout that happened, and that was the Cincinnati Bengals blowing out the Detroit Lions. I thought the Lions were going to be a little bit more competitive in that game, but I think the Lions now realized that they are a bad team.
I said it week one, dude.
Yeah.
They're one of those teams that are bad and they know it.
No. Now they know it. Now they know it.
No. We have known Detroit as the single most snake-bitten team in the league.
One of, but yes.
No, it's them, and it's really not even close anymore. Who do they have?
Well, there's a lot of teams that are pretty snake-bitten, but
aren't they still winless?
They are. They are the only winless team in the league right now.
So who's more snake-bitten than them right now?
As of this moment, just them. Just them.
My point, and Cincy, they ran all over them, dude.
Oh yeah.
Cincy is really starting to flip the table on who they are as a franchise, and they're making a lot of right moves.
You know what it is I want to like Joe Burrow. He's a good quarterback. I'm not going to deny he's a good quarterback, but I can't like him because he's a Bengal. And he's got that Bengal stink to him.
It's hard,
but I respect him.
It's hard not to like that Burrow-Jamar Chase duo.
They are nasty.
That is nasty.
Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have that connection that is just.
And then Mixon coming in the backfield, dude. That's like
it's going to be a tough test. The Ravens played the Bengals this upcoming week, and this is going to be a very tough test. And whoever wins this game is going to be leading the division. So. This is going to be a very interesting game. But I want to actually move on to another blowout that happened, but to the other team in our division, and that is the Browns. Arizona swamped the Browns 37-14.
Again, that was kind of another game I thought was going to be closer.
It was a physical game. And we both said it was going to be a fight. It was a fight, but it was more like Mike Tyson versus a Girl Scout. It was
a beating. It wasn't a fight.
I want my thin mints.
It wasn't a real fist fight. It was kind of just a beating. The Arizona Cardinals gave Cleveland a beating. And now Baker Mayfield's out.
They wanted
Thursday.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield is out for Thursday night against the Denver Broncos. And Case Keenum will be starting this upcoming week. So the Browns are hurt right now. They are hurting. So this is not a good time for them to have a Thursday night game, but it is a smart decision to put Baker Mayfield, be like, look, you're not healthy. You're not 100%. Sit down. Because it's a game of attrition. This game is a game of attrition. It's even longer now, so you got to make it to December. And if the Browns want January, you gotta start winning some games. With that being said, They can, But I think it's a smart decision to bench Baker Mayfield for the longevity of the season. And I think we'll see. We'll see what happens.
See, it's ironic to me because it was not too long ago that Baker Mayfield actually had a press conference where he said, "I decide if I play or not." And then the coaches were like, "You're saying, fam."
Did he really say that?
He goes, "I have the ultimate decision."
Did he really say
Yes,
that?
he did.
Oh, my God.
Yes, he did. Something along those lines where he was like, "I have the final say if I play or not." And then it was like less than 24 hours later, it was proven that he will not be playing Thursday.
Perfect.
It's poetic justice, if you
French
will.
kiss. I love it. So let's move on to actually one of the better games this past week, and that was the Dallas and New England game. And man, that was a really good game to watch. It had everything you could expect in it. But Dallas won in overtime, 35-29. Man, CeeDee Lamb, is he coming for the title of best young wide receiver?
You see, I had something to say, but Trayvon Diggs intercepted it.
Oh,
You see, CeeDee Lamb did great.
Trayvon Diggs.
My God, dude.
A pick six. Just
A pick six, he has more touchdowns than his brother Stephon.
yeah.
This is, he has two. Stephon Diggs has one.
Oh my God.
Think about that. First off, Mike Knox, right? That's the first name.
For the tight end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has most touchdowns on that team right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, he has more touchdowns than his brother, who's a wide receiver.
My God. Dallas is playing unbelievable as of late, and man, I gotta give New England credit. They played very well to be competitive against them. But man, Dallas is they're in another gear right now.
Impressive. Now, my question to you is: are they for real?
What do you mean by for real?
Like, do you? Well, obviously they're gonna
win the division probably.
But again, it's the weakest division in the league, and they're the best team in the division.
Can they compete for a Super Bowl? Is that your question?
More so, do you think they can win more than a playoff game?
More than a playoff game? Probably.
Because we know them that they usually only go as far as one playoff game.
I think Dallas can win a playoff game with the team that they have. Granted, I think that they're going to win that division, and being that there is no bye week for the second seed, it's going to be obviously probably Tampa's going to be the first seed in the NFC. But with that being said, they probably have to play a wild card weekend, and I think that if they have the home field advantage, they could probably win that game. If it's Arizona or the Rams, one of those teams is coming in, maybe. I know Dallas does play Arizona at some point this season, so they do have some tough competition ahead of them. So we will see how legit they are in the weeks to come. But I want to go to a game that we actually talked about last week, and that was the Raiders and Broncos. And the Raiders finally came through with the win to beat the Broncos 34-24. And Derek Carr, another big game, and they had a very emotional win after the tumultuous week that they had. Tell me, what your thoughts on that game?
Pure redemption week. That's what it was. It was, we need to redeem the name of the Las Vegas Raiders. That has been some smeared. That is last week, this is now, and we're going to move forward as a team together. And they came together and they won. And they won real well. They played well. They played with a chip on their shoulders. They were nasty. They were physical. They were fast. They played really, really solid football against Denver. So I think it's going to be more uphill than down for Las Vegas from here on.
We shall see. I know that they also have some tough competition ahead of them, especially within their own division. So it is nice to know that Derek Carr is probably having one of his best years. He may be having his best year right now. And it's really nice to know that the Raiders organization, despite everything, they can look to Derek Carr and be like, look, we need you to help us. And he's like, I got you. And he's kind of that rock that is holding the Raiders together. And it's really nice to see that, and for him to be so recognized this year as such a quarterback of that talent. But let's move on to the Sunday night primetime game, your Steelers against the Seahawks. And your Steelers won 23-20. but it was a hard fought game. I don't think we expected the Seahawks to fight as much as they did. But tell me your thoughts on that game.
Definitely, I will always take the win. You know that. Do I think it should have been as close as it was? No. The reason being is because of, they have Geno Smith at the helm. He's still healthy. He's at 100%. We're playing with an aged Ben Roethlisberger. And unfortunately, because of the way the game was going, we were forced to rely on our best player. I put very high air quotes there. Mm-hmm. And that was just looking at the long-term report card as to who the best player was, and that was Ben Roethlisberger. Mm-hmm. If it was a receiver, it would have been Juju Smith-Schuster. So both of those equations equal us throwing again for 40 times. But on the flip side of that coin, he went 29 for 40. Mm-hmm. So 11 pass drops in a game, that's not that bad.
He played well. And
right. He played well enough to win.
Yeah.
Najee Harris, again, he had a real good game.
And that is what we wanted to see.
Right.
We both wanted to see.
So, again, the incorporation of Najee Harris is becoming more and more productive. Mm-hmm. So, although this was a very tight-knit game, I see more promise in Pittsburgh in that game than I did in the Denver game.
Yes.
Because of the competition that is Seattle, regardless of who is at the helm, because of how well they're coached by Pete Carroll. Mm-hmm. So that team is always a competition, no matter the team that shows up. Their defense is appalling at points. Mm-hmm. They were not appalling against the Pittsburgh offense. That offense has trouble moving the ball. There were points where they did not have trouble moving the ball.
Yeah.
So they came and they played. And we had to come and we had to show out. And ultimately, T.J. Watt did what T.J. Watt does.
Yeah, I was just going to say, T.J. Watt is playing absolutely unbelievable.
The best defenseman in the world, and that's just the way it
is. Is he, well, Aaron Donald might have something to say to that. But tell me, do you think he is going to get Defensive Player of the Year this year?
I think so.
Okay.
I think
I can see that.
Definitely on track.
I can see that, and I wouldn't be mad at that.
But, of course, like you said, Aaron Donald might have something to say. Also Chandler Jones could have something to say. Potentially.
Well, he's got to be a little bit more consistent. He had that really good week one.
Joey Bosa could have something to say.
That's true. That is true. Nick Bosa. There's a lot of good defenders.
There's a lot of people who could have things to say, and that's what I love about this league now is that even though it has evolved into such a receiver-friendly, mm-hmm. the pass rushers have come in under the radar and have become such a force in this league mm-hmm. that people don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's what it is these pass rushers and linebackers too are a product of the evolution of the game of football, being that wide receivers are getting faster every year. They're just getting faster, and over time they're just becoming so much more faster than they were, say now than they were in the 90s or early 2000s.
Right.
And tight ends too are getting not only they're big, but they're also fast too, which is forcing linebackers, up-and-coming linebackers, to become faster linebackers. And you kind of see a hybrid of it with, like, T.J. Watt, who is a very dominant pass rusher, but he's big, but he's fast.
So fast.
Also, another linebacker that you see playing coverage and also pass rush is Fred Warner for the 49ers. And he is big, but he also moves east to west very efficiently. Michael Parsons plays well, but he's just unleash him.
That kid's special.
He's ferocious on defense. But you know who's one of my favorite linebackers to watch? Derrick Henry.
The linebacker with the ball?
Yeah, the linebacker in Tennessee. So on Monday night, Derrick Henry had, for the second week in a row, over 130 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Bills. And I smelt the upset. And woo! Derrick King Henry fucking had a day, and the Titans won over the Bills 34-31. Your thoughts on that game, Chris?
Absolutely incredible game. You won't find honestly a better game to watch when it comes to just pure competition. Mm-hmm. Both teams have their flaws.
Oh yeah.
Tennessee has an appalling defense. Buffalo, they turn the ball over at pinnacle points. Mm-hmm. But Derrick Henry, my God, man, he does not go down. He is on track for another 2,000-yard season. Called that.
Mm-hmm.
He is unbelievable, and they're going to retire his number when he retires, and I'm going to call that one right now.
Now, just so everyone is aware, Derrick Henry is on such a pace this year that he is on pace to break the most rush yards in a season by a running back that was set by Eric Dickerson back in the 80s, and he is set to break that. He is also on pace to break, having 2 consecutive 2,000-yard seasons, which is what you called before, and on pace to break LaDainian Tomlinson's touchdown record by 29 rushing touchdowns by a running back in one season. So he is playing unbelievable right now. He could have a historic year, but we're going to be talking more about the Titans later on. They play the Chiefs this upcoming week, and that is a game that we are absolutely fascinated on. And I don't know about you, but I want to talk about some of these games right now.
Let's get into some of these games.
Okay.
It's going to be a fun week.
So
So
the first game that we actually wanted to talk about is the New York Giants against the Carolina Panthers. Now, Chris Paul, I'll start you off. What is wrong with the Giants this year? Let's just rip that Band-Aid right off. What is wrong with the Giants this year?
See, I'm going to pour some iodine in that open wound and say, what isn't wrong with the Giants?
Okay.
The offensive line is embarrassing. At best, it's embarrassing.
Okay.
Daniel Jones is turnover prone.
Yeah.
He has way too many turnovers, whether it be fumbles because he's aggressive on the run. I'm not saying I don't respect that. He's big, he runs, he's just like Josh Allen in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I respect it with Josh Allen. The difference there, Josh Allen can hold the ball. Daniel Jones fumbles the ball because he's afraid to hit the ground.
He fumbles the ball even when he's in the pocket, too.
Right. He's very tentative in the pocket, but that comes from having lack of offensive line. Mm-hmm. First off, they have no blitz pickup.
No.
People come untouched all day against that quarterback, and it's sad to see.
Yeah.
Because, again, he's going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone's going to come flying in and rip his head off. The one saving grace that I see potentially for the Giants is Leonard Williams. That D tackle?
Yeah.
He had 2 first-half sacks last week.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should be more focusing rebuilding that defense around him. You know, he gives me like that. He honestly gives me like a Michael Strahan vibe.
Mm-hmm.
He's no type of finesse. He's just, I'm going to take you by the shirt, and I'm going to throw you to the deck, and I'm getting to the halfback or quarterback, and it doesn't matter how.
Mm-hmm.
He has a real nasty swim move. He can break free. He has a real nasty rip move where he takes him and he just throws him to the side. So I think they should be more focusing on him versus trying to find their guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think they should start from the ground up, and you know, more so the formula in this game when it comes to rebuilding is start with your defense.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't put up a lot of points against you, your team on offense can effectively score.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as you said, with the formula to win, you have to have a stout run game, a good enough defense, and a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
I'm more so where the defense comes first, because if you don't put those points up and you give that little bit of momentum to a consistent offense,
mm-hmm.
just give me consistent. Don't even give me good.
Mm-hmm.
That can put points, whether it be field goals or touchdowns. You can win games.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree with you. There's a lot wrong with the Giants, but let me ask you before I go on, what should be the primary position the Giants should focus on this offseason?
This offseason, they have to draft a running back.
A running back?
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. Saquon Barkley is way too injury prone.
And I'm glad you said that, because he is way too injury prone. And obviously that's something he can't control. But you know who they tried to run with last week? Devontae Booker.
I saw that name come around.
Devontae Booker, and they had another guy, but they had no run game last week. And I think with a team like against the Rams is like I was saying with the Titans and Bills last week is you have to shorten the game where you know that the Rams they have a stellar offense. Is like you have to be willing to run the ball so that offense is not able to be on the field. The Giants failed to do all their assignments, and the Rams just took advantage and scored 38 unanswered points on them. Now, being that the Giants are kind of in the division that they're in, they're down, but they're not out yet. Can they still compete?
You see, that's a very loaded question because it depends on how the fucking Cowboys continue to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they decide to plateau, then maybe they can compete still. But you can't really see the ceiling in Dallas right now.
No.
You know, they're up in cloud nine.
They're up on that jumbotron.
Right. They're doing whatever the hell they want. You know, Philly's fighting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Washington has a much better defense than the Giants does.
They do on paper, but they haven't been playing like that.
Well, you got to look at also the teams that they've been playing.
Yeah.
You know, so they've been playing a much better offense against that defense. But that defense, considering their division, they have the best defense in the division.
Mm-hmm.
I feel. Even with that Dallas defense, I think Washington matches it.
I don't know. I think this year Dallas may have the better defense over Washington. But
fair.
But regardless, I will say that for the Giants' sake, their defense is not that good. And you know what it is their two best players are their cornerbacks, which is Logan Ryan and Jabril Peppers. And
Jabril Peppers.
They honestly, I think what they really miss is Blake Martinez at middle linebacker because he was a very unsung hero, especially last year when the Giants were competitive. In that, even though they were losing games, they were losing like one possession games last year, and Blake Martinez was a big part of that defense that kept them close. And his absence is, you could see that in how the Giants play. Their middle linebacker, Raglan, I'm mispronouncing his name, but he's okay.
He's no Blake Martinez.
But and I think the Giants just have a real tough time because no matter who they're against, they're just going to get they're either going to get outcoached or just outplayed because they have against better competition.
Right.
And I thought that Daniel Jones, he wasn't playing bad up until that Rams game. He wasn't the reason that they lost games up until that point. But that Rams game, that's on Daniel Jones.
That's on him.
He had 3 picks. I want to read you his stats. He was 29 for 51, mostly in garbage time, 242 yards, mostly in garbage time. But he had 3 picks and 2 fumbles, and one of them was lost. But man, he got bullied. And I agree with you. Their line, their offensive line, is something that I think that they need to address almost immediately. The Ravens actually picked up a guard from the Giants, Zeitler.
Yeah, and he's bad.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good for the Ravens.
He's solid.
And the fact that the Giants were willing to concede him and is something that I just wouldn't understand because you kind of need him. They do need a better offensive line, and that is something that they need to work on throughout the offseason. I agree with you. The defense does really need attention, and they should focus on that. I think they should probably focus on the offensive line. If they can get like a stud center or a stud guard, it makes a difference in the world. They do need a running back.
They need a running back in the worst way, but so does Carolina.
McCaffrey's injury prone.
McCaffrey injury prone. He's played 6 games since 2019.
He's injury prone.
He may be one of the most injury prone players in the league.
That's the thing too. Is like he's one of those players that when he's on the field, normally he's spectacular,
but he's never on the field.
Exactly.
And he's missing another 4 weeks minimum.
Yeah. For
a hamstring injury or something.
Yeah.
So I think the Giants and Carolina are officially in the same boat when it comes to offense. Like, y'all need work on offense, specifically in tackle, guard, and or center on the left side. Your weak side is atrocious. Mm-hmm. Weak side for both teams is absolutely atrocious. That's where the pocket crashes at all times. and you have no running back because your running backs are always injured because you have no offensive line.
Yep.
It's the same thing that was going on with the Steelers and James Conner. Shout out James Conner. He's actually succeeding in Arizona right now.
Oh, yeah.
He's playing real well. I believe he has 12 or 13 touchdowns.
I don't know about that, but we'll check on that.
He's playing real well.
He is playing very well, but as you were saying before,
But, they need an offensive line on both teams.
Mm-hmm.
Darnold, thank God, man, the first pass of the game was an interception.
Yeah.
So he's turnover prone too.
Yeah. He is turnover prone. And I think Darnold, he's one of those quarterbacks that he's a good quarterback in only one half of the game. And in the first half of the game, he was okay. Like you said, he had the pick, but he was probably at his best in that last drive of Carolina in the fourth, where they had to go, I think it was 98 or 99 yards down the field, down 8 points, score a touchdown, and convert the 2-point conversion. And that was probably the best I've seen Sam Darnold play. But as good as he was, Kirk Cousins obviously just outplayed him that last week and won them the game. But, man, I got to say, the Panthers do, one thing that we were talking about before is the Panthers do need to win these games against the soft competition now, because their final 4 stretch of games is going to be tough, because they play the Bills, the Bucks, the Saints, and the Bucks again. So I don't see them winning almost any of those games.
No.
Maybe the Saints, because that's a divisional game and they did beat the Saints earlier, maybe. But they need to win these games against teams like the Giants and the Jets, like they did earlier in the season. They have to win against soft competition now, stack the wins, because if they want to be a playoff team, and they started off 3-0, it seems like they have ambition to be a playoff team, but you need the wins. And if the schedule's not favoring them in December, when it counts, because this season, like we've been saying all along, is a long season. So in this, but I completely agree with you. They do need to establish a running game in Carolina, but they just can't because of that offensive line. And I think both teams, looking at them, they're kind of similar in a sense, where it's like you were saying before, it's bad offensive line, injury-prone running back, not so much good back, depth of running back at that point, and their defense is inconsistent at best.
Yeah.
So it's going to be kind of like a mirror match in a sense.
Yeah, I can see that. I do want to give a shout out to one particular person on the Carolina defense, Son Riddick, linebacker.
Okay.
He is insane. He's going to be one of the more slept-on linebackers in this league.
Is he a middle linebacker or an outside
I
backer?
believe he's a middle linebacker. I believe
Okay.
he stays in the box.
Okay.
He's one of the most physical guys on the field when Carolina plays.
Okay.
So I believe he's number 50. I'll look it up real quick. He is one of the single most physical players on the field at all times.
The Carolina does have a very physical defense, and especially with obviously now they have Henderson. They did have J.C. Horn, but Jeremy Chin, Brian Burns, Shaq Thompson, they have a pretty good defense, but it's inconsistent. And they, against the better competition, they just struggled. And especially that overtime drive against Minnesota, they just could not stop Minnesota at all.
Well, at that point, they were gassed. His number is 43, by the way.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But they were just gassed at that point.
One thing I will say this, and we did say this in the recap, I want to shout out to Kellen Osborne in Minnesota, number 17. He caught the game-winning touchdown where he went over the pylon. And it was
God, what a play.
I was going to say, you remember that?
Yeah, I remember
that.
Yeah,
you remember that play?
Yeah, that play was unbelievable.
Insane. But one thing I do want to get to that is I don't think Carolina understood that the Vikings were running the same play almost twice in a row. And they didn't pick that up.
No.
And I thought that is something to notice, is the adjustments. Because it's okay, it's not common for teams to play the same play twice consecutively. But when they do, you should be able to make the adjustment. Like, hey, look, this just happened on us. we can't get burned again. But I don't know. This is one of those games to watch. I think it's going to be a very mirror match-esque game. But what do you think? Your final thoughts?
I think it's more going to be of a low-scoring game. You know, I don't see many touchdowns coming. You know, I see a lot of mistakes coming from this game. Mm-hmm. You know, there are a lot of offensive mistakes going to come from both sides. Offensive line-wise, I see a very penalty-filled game with like offsides, holding, pass interference, and then, you know, the tempers are going to flare. You're going to start seeing the stupid penalties, you know, the unsportsmanlike conduct because you're pushing each other. Someone's going to throw a fist and get ejected. I'm calling it. Mm-hmm. I feel it because it's just, that's what happens when these two up-in-the-air, over-hyper-emotional teams get together. Mm-hmm. It's a powder keg until something goes off, and then out of nowhere, you're going to find two people throwing fists.
I don't know if people will be throwing fists, but have we seen that so far this year? Has there been fights? I don't think so.
Well, other than what was proclaimed as a punch, which I don't really...
TJ Watt?
Like TJ Watt. That man was going for the ball in every angle. I watched it. They gave him the unsportsmanlike. And that, honestly, to me, they forced the hand. You can't throw an overhand at the ball at the goal line at a running back. You can't do it. Come in under like you did. You did it twice. You can't get the ball out? Fine. Throw him to the floor. It's fine. Enough. Get him next play. So, the fact that he came in overhand, no, he was not going at the running back. He was going at the ball. He forced the hand.
I'll tell you what. It was something to see TJ Watt punch the ball. But I will say this. If there is a fight between Carolina and the Giants, I will give you one crisp $1.
I don't want a crisp $1.
Crisp $1.
Let it be known.
Throwing in that Carolina Giants game. But I actually want to move on to some other teams that I think we should talk about for the wrong reasons. And it's the Dolphins and the Falcons. Now, T, we love you, my son. And we love your Finns. But, man, they're SOL right now. Especially against that loss against Jacksonville. But, Chris Palmer, your thoughts on the Dolphins, the state of the Dolphins right now?
Such a heartbreaker, man. It was a real tough game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. It seemed like almost they're starting to play roulette at quarterback. Again, they had someone else play a couple of plays for Tua. I don't know if Tua got hurt or something. Again, it was very early. It was in London. The game was at 9:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. It happened in the first half, 2 plays, and then I think it happened in the second half, 2 plays as well. But they had another quarterback in. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to call it anything because I didn't get to watch the game. So, but that's interesting to me that Tua's now back. He's apparently full health, and you're still substituting him in and out. So, do you not trust him enough as a quarterback, as a franchise, to not win you games? So you need to try out other people? Because that was not the game to do it. Yes, Jacksonville had not won a game yet. That's the desperation that a lot of people don't know, being winless. Mm-hmm. You know, Dolphins know that desperation, and they've come out winning from being winless. Mm-hmm. So, them going in and trying that, it's very iffy to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say this. The quarterback did come in, but it was only just to, I guess, maybe Tua just had to step out for whatever reason. But Tua essentially played 95% of the game. Mm-hmm. So he pretty much did start and play and finish that game. I got to say, though, I didn't expect Tua to come back that game and play as well as he did. He actually played pretty well. He had over 300 yards, a couple touchdowns, and he had a pick, but ultimately he was really well. But their defense is very concerning. And again, the Dolphins are one of those teams that they kind of have to rely on Tua now because they have no running game to help them out. And Gaskin wasn't even their highest rusher this past game. They actually had Malcolm Brown. He had 5 rushing attempts for 24 yards, and they also had, probably saying his name wrong, Salvan Ahmad. He was 7 for 22. So they're not only not willing to run the ball, and they're just not running effectively at all. And it's not like Jacksonville is a good defense. Like, they have a couple good players here and there, like Miles Jack and I think Shaquille Griffin is there as well. But is he? Yeah, he was traded from the Seahawks this past offseason. But yeah, they just have no running game. And I guess it kind of is silver lining in a sense. It does give better chemistry with Tua and Mike Gesicki. They do have a really good chemistry between one another. And where Tua is kind of reliant on Gesicki in a sense. But he is starting to find Jalen Waddle as well. And that is Jalen Waddle. And it's that for him to establish chemistry with his receiving core, I think is a positive thing for the Dolphins, because that is something. If they are going to be investing in Tua, they have to be investing around Tua. Mm-hmm. That being said, they need to be investing in an offensive line, because not just to protect Tua, but you gotta create some running lanes. Like you gotta like
create something.
You gotta have some kind of running game, because there's no way Tua is going to be throwing for over 300 yards every single game. He's not Mahomes.
He's not that guy.
So, as much as we want Tua to succeed, I think he's only going to succeed as much as the Dolphins let him, with the pieces around him. And with the Falcons, they're another team that's struggling as well. But man, what do you see in the Falcons? Like, both teams, their defenses are just killing. They both teams actually have a bottom 5 ranked scoring defense, and that is atrocious.
With Leonard, I really just hope that this past bye week helps. Like, you guys have a lot of problems, just like a bunch of teams. You guys are playing okay at best. Calvin Ridley finally starting to make a little bit of a ripple of type of momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to go anywhere? I don't think so, personally.
Mm-hmm.
But more so to your point against the Dolphins and that defense, they have no secondary.
Yeah.
So if Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley were to have a game and Kyle Pitts was to have a game, unfortunately it would be against the secondary. That defensive line, however, on the Dolphins, they got some problems.
They did.
More so because of how mobile they are. For those who are watching these Dolphins games, the defensive line, they like to do what's called an axe. And that is where you have 2 defensive linemen sitting next to each other. They go at their respective offensive linemen in front of them, and then they do a cross route. And they go inside each other's outside shoulder. They go up and around each other and through the inside A gaps between each other. The A and the B gap, they go around each other and go through. And they're starting to hide it. They're doing it late, where you'll see them, they'll jack up their linemen, and then they'll throw them and do an axe. And that'll leave an open lane for the linebacker to come through.
Mm-hmm.
But because they don't have much linebacker help, that lane isn't being filled.
Yeah.
So from the front D line, it's a pretty. Like, they're really playing well. They're playing tough. They're throwing the offensive line around. They're getting pushed. They're doing a lot of good things. It's the lack of support from behind on that defense where those holes need to be filled, where those gaps need to be plugged.
Yep.
And then when that ball needs to be thrown, it needs to be defended.
Yep. Yeah. That's
so. When it comes to the Falcons, Matt Ryan can throw the ball, but like as you and I always have been saying, they're finding more and more ways to blow it at the end.
Yeah, this is actually one of those conversations that we were actually talking about off air, and the Falcons are just one of those teams that I think that they have kind of bought into the what people perceive of them, and people perceive the Falcons as a team that no matter how much points they're going to score, they're going to blow it in the end. And I think they might have bought into this mindset because throughout the years they've had a lot of different defensive personnel come in and out over the years, and now they're having a different head coach, and yet they're still having the same problems on defense. And I think it's just maybe like just a mental thing that the Falcons had, because when they did have a good defense, they were able to make it to the Super Bowl. But ultimately, their defense was what cost them the Super Bowl. But even since then, they've had so much defensive shuffling that every year that last year they blew a couple games. This year they're probably going to blow a couple games as well.
They almost blew that Jets game.
They almost blew that Jets game.
So
almost.
The London game too.
That was the first London game of the year.
It was a London game.
Yep. And so that was, I don't know. I gotta say though, Matt Ryan is actually playing pretty well this year. He's not playing bad. He's not playing superior, but he's good. He's not the reason they're losing games by any stretch of the mean. Like, he has over 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns to 3 picks. He's solid. He's doing what he needs to do. But obviously there's 3 phases to the ball, and as good as they can be on offense, and we know the Falcons can put up 20 plus points easily, no problem. But ultimately their defense is what's going to cost them.
Right.
And I don't know. This is one of those games, the Dolphins and the Falcons, this is one of those games where I think if either one of these teams needs to get back on track, this is the game to do it. Because both, again, it's another one of those mirror matches where both teams are kind of struggling, and you kind of want to see who's going to be the tougher team to kind of pull it out in the end. And I would like to see the Dolphins get back on track, and especially now that Tua is back, kind of stabilize and like let him get comfortable in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they got to find a running back some way, somehow. But but with that being said, this is going to be one of those games where, again, probably a low-scoring affair, but it's going to be significant to whichever defense can stop them. It's probably going to be one of those games where it's going to come down to the last possession and who can make the stop.
Yes.
And that's the question going into this game is which team is going to make the stop when it counts the most?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely going to be one of those games where, like I you said a couple of weeks back, where it's going to be more so one on third down.
Yes.
Where these teams really aren't going to move the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you allow the team to stay on the field and continue to move the ball, that's how they're going to score it. They're not going to make any big highlight plays where it's, boom, we're bombing it over the field. It could potentially happen on the Falcons' side, respectively, because of Calvin Ridley, but it won't be for anything extravagant. It'll be probably for a 30-yard pass, 40-yard pass, which is nice. It's what Matt Ryan can offer.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to see a 70-yard bomb come from Matt Ryan anymore.
Oh, absolutely not.
You know, and I don't
especially
think
now that he doesn't have Julio Jones.
Right. I mean, Calvin Ridley is, you know, he's fast enough that he could make that play, but Matt Ryan isn't the arm anymore.
No.
You know, and again, like you said, they're mentally psyched that they're probably going to throw an interception on that type of play, they feel. So you don't see that anymore. You see a very much more conservative team. So, yeah, I don't see much of a high-scoring game here. I see maybe a 1-2 possession game, but it's going to ultimately be less than 40 points across the board.
Who is going to make the stop? That is the key to look for in that game. Now, I actually want to move on to probably what may be the game of the week that you and we were looking at on the card. And that is actually the Chiefs and the Titans playing each other. And kind of like the game we were just talking about, who's going to make the stop? But this time on Derrick Henry. For the Titans had an absolutely incredible game. Derrick Henry is having an almost MVP caliber year, and he should be considered for MVP if he sustains all the records that are to be broken. But with that being said, going into this game, Chris Jones coming back for the Chiefs, that's big because he's a defensive lineman who is looking to stop Derrick Henry at the point of attack. But man, Derrick Henry is just on another level. Chris Palmer, what are your thoughts going into this game?
Going into this game, on paper, you know, the Chiefs are the better team. You know, you see the Chiefs on paper and you see the Titans on paper, and this is going to be an offensive game. Both defenses are really subpar. So with that being said, with Chris Jones coming back, he is going to be a crucial point in keeping Derrick Henry at bay. Mm-hmm. But I truly feel that now with the head of steam that this man has since week 1, there's no stopping him. With the amount of yards that the Chiefs let up, Derrick Henry's going to have a 200-yard game.
Well, I'm not sure about 200. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you 130 because that's the number for the Chiefs.
For an average running back.
I want to say this. I looked up just how bad the Chiefs' defense was. I looked it up a couple weeks ago, and I was like, look, let me see how it is now. Let me see if it got better. It did not. It is not better at all by any metric. And there was a stat that I actually want to run by you that I found very surprising. And the Chiefs are letting up on defense, on average, 130 yards per game. That is so. Derrick Henry's going to get probably at least 130 yards. Who give him that?
You see, that's for an average running back.
Exactly.
Derrick Henry is not an average running back. He is a genetic freak. There's a reason why you called him a linebacker. Because he's literally built like a linebacker. He's 5'11", 232 pounds.
He's more than that. He's got to be more.
He's 230.
No, he's more than 230. Bro,
no, he's really not. He looks like a machine because he's only this big.
He is insane.
So, and when he hits full stride, no one can touch him. Not one person, not 3 people, not 5 people. He has a stiff arm that's stronger than Marshawn Lynch's. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
Saying something. But on that flip side is that defense. Their open field tackling. First off, disclaimer, open field tackling across the league is a lost art. There's only so many teams that can tackle in the open field, and those are the ones that succeed.
Yep.
You see it. It's clear as day. You look at the Cowboys. They are very good at open field tackling. They're swarming. They swarm to the ball. You look at the Ravens. They swarm to the ball. You look at the Buffalo Bills. They swarm to the ball. The Steelers. They swarm to the ball. You look at the Browns' defense. You see 6-7 heads go for one receiver.
But it's also tackling properly by wrapping your arms around and not going for just shoulder hits.
Correct. Not going for the bump. You see all these players go for the bump, and then that's how you see people get leveled.
Oh, like how Derrick Henry leveled Micah Hyde?
No, he just does that because he believes every man is a child. And he can just do things to people that shouldn't be allowed. He just does things that are out of this world. That's not fair. That is a grown-ass man that you put in the dirt like that.
I gotta say, for anyone who did not watch that Monday night game, there was a point in the game. Obviously, he had his 76-yard touchdown run, just boom. But after that, it was, I think, in the second half of the game, he had another breakout run, and Micah Hyde, the safety for the Buffalo Bills, tried to stop Derrick Henry. And the key word there is tried. And Derrick Henry just put his shoulder down and just boom. Shoulder trucked the living fuck out of this guy.
Sends him into the next life.
He basically imprinted the number 22 on this man's face. And
he definitely imprinted him for the rest of his career. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
He's not going to want to do that again.
That's why when you look at Derrick Henry, it's like he's a linebacker. He's a linebacker. He's a freak. And
he's a genetic freak.
Now, I think this is actually going to be one of those games where I think it's probably going to be kind of similar to this Bills game, where it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Because the Chiefs' offense isn't the problem. They're going to put 30 points probably at will. And I don't trust the Titans' defense to stop either Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce or now Mecole Hardman. Because now Patrick Mahomes is kind of spreading the ball out a little bit more over the field. Obviously, he still has his safety blankets with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Bless you.
Thank you.
And as a defense, it's who are you going to double? Who are you going to put on the double team? Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce? You can't do both. You can only do one. And I think the Titans are going to struggle on if they either try to double either Tyreek or Travis Kelce. The Titans defense, they I will say this. They did get the stop when they needed to on the goal line against the Bills. Granted, a banana peel was on the field and Josh Allen slipped, but they did get the stop when they needed to most. I think just throughout how the game manifested itself, Titans were just really feeling the momentum, and they had the momentum at that point, going up and taking the lead. I think this is going to be one of those games where it's probably going to be a high-scoring affair, probably something similar to that Monday night game. I could see 35-31 or something to that effect because I just don't think either defense can stop either team's best players.
Yeah, I could see that. A big thing that I see with the Titans, and I've been saying it for weeks now, is that they have no screen recognition.
Yeah.
They cannot recognize a screen, and they will get burned every time because everyone knows who's going to be waiting for that screen in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be Tyreek Hill.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as he gets the ball, he's going to take off.
He's going.
And there's no one on that defense that can keep up.
No, absolutely.
The only one that might be able to catch an angle on him will be Byard. But Tyreek Hill makes one move, and he's beat for a lot of yards.
Yeah.
So
Byard's supposed to be the last line of defense, too. He's the free safety for the Tennessee Titans. He's probably he's probably their best player on defense. And being that he's a safety, he has to basically be the one to be like, hey, nothing gets past him. But being that everyone's kind of getting to him and then stopping, it doesn't matter.
Right. So it doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah, so this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be a high-scoring affair. But tell me, give me a sneak peek. Who are you favoring in that game a little bit?
You see, that one's going to be a toss-up to me. I feel like that was just going to be good to sit down and watch no matter who wins.
That's true.
I'm more so leaning Tennessee, more so just because of loyalty to Derrick Henry. That's my dude. That's my guy. So I think I'm going to sit over that corner of this game, but I'm going to enjoy the offensive shoot. It's just going to be an absolute barn burner to watch. I recommend everybody, if you have the time to sit down and watch this game. It's going to be one of the most exciting games of the week.
That is probably going to be the game of the week. But let's move on to actually the game that pretty much everyone is going to be seeing, the Sunday night primetime game, the Indianapolis Colts and the 49ers. And as of this recording, Jimmy G is expected to start against the Colts. So Jimmy G's coming back. Tell me, what are your thoughts on this game?
In light of that, with Jimmy Garoppolo coming back, 49ers are the better team here. They also the better coach team for starters. Kyle Shanahan's a better coach.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy G is a better quarterback. That defense is a lot better than Indy's, I feel. Because main reason is because on Indy, for that defense, when the play gets extended, meaning if the quarterback has to roll out and do something else, they collapse. They don't know what to do. They don't know any type of secondary progression defense.
Yeah.
Their main progression happens, and then if he rolls out, you see it. Every defenseman stops running. They slow down. They start looking around like what to do.
Yeah.
At that point, just play football.
Mm-hmm.
Find the guy with the ball and hit him.
And who obviously plays that well, and I've been giving him a shout out a lot, is Darius Leonard on the Colts. He's the one that pursues the ball up, but he can't be the only one that pursues the ball.
And that's the issue with Indy, is that he is the only one pursuing. You see him all over the field.
Oh, yeah.
But he's getting older now. And for nothing, he's a lineman. He's a left end, isn't he not?
No, he's a linebacker. He's left outside linebacker.
Okay. So that's why I remember him putting his hand in there. A lot of times the outside linebackers drop down to an extra end.
Yes.
He's big. He shouldn't have to be up where the cornerbacks are pursuing a ball.
Yeah.
A ball that was thrown from 12 yards back, that's where he should be. Mm-hmm. He shouldn't have to be dropping into a hook zone every time. That man is one of the most lethal pass rushers in the game.
Well, he is pretty good in coverage as well. So he is one of those defenders that is one of those two-way players where he's good on the rush and also good in coverage as well.
I agree, but I would prefer him, talent-wise, to be a pass rusher.
Oh, yeah.
He reminds me of Robert Mathis.
Mm-hmm. And especially against that 49ers offense, too,
yes.
because Jimmy G, he's not a mobile quarterback. He's a pocket passing quarterback. He's actually one of kind of like the few pocket passing left in the league. And because now there's so many mobile quarterbacks now because they're so young and they can run the field. But Jimmy G can move. But I agree with you. If the Colts need to disrupt them, they're going to have to put the pressure on Jimmy G.
Yes, for sure.
And I think one player that actually who might have more significance in this game is Deforest Buckner. He was on the 49ers when they went to the Super Bowl. He was on that defensive line with Nick Bosa and Nick Armstead and stuff. And and DeForest Buckner was right there in the heart of it. And then after that year, he went to Indy. And since being on Indy, Indianapolis has been mediocre, I guess. It's probably the best way to put them at. But this is his game against his former team. And he's going to want to make a statement because he knows exactly what the Niners want to do, being that he's practiced against Jimmy Garoppolo. He knows what Jimmy Garoppolo, his tendencies, and where he wants to go with the ball. And I think he's going to have a significant part of the game. So look for number 99 on the Colts defense because he might be the key for the Colts to win that game. But like you said before, with Jimmy Garoppolo coming back as the starting quarterback, the Niners are the better team. But I got to say though, Carson Wentz, he's been playing better. He's been getting back on track. What are your thoughts on Carson Wentz?
My thoughts on Carson Wentz stay the same, man. I don't know. Sure, he's in my mind, he is that quarterback that you think of when, he's just another quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He's like Mason Rudolph. Just another quarterback. Can win you games. He won't get you there.
I think he's better than Mason Rudolph.
Not much.
Not by much, but
not much.
But he's better. He's better than Mason Rudolph.
Put him in a different light. You put him in a similar light. They're kind of the same.
As long as Myles Garrett doesn't hit Carson Wentz in the head with the helmet, but
they're kind of the same.
But tell me, do you think with the emergence of Jonathan Taylor, do you think Carson Wentz can manage the game enough for Indy to win?
Against this team, no. That defense, I think, is better than that offense.
Okay.
Even the only addition that I really could possibly see being an issue for the 49ers is T.Y. Hilton being back. He had a great game in Houston, but that was kind of just like here, welcome back.
Mm-hmm.
This defense is a lot more competitive. This team is a lot better coach.
Yeah.
So they're going to be a lot more prepared for T.Y. Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
But on that other side, T.Y. Hilton is a future Hall of Fame wide receiver.
I don't know about
probably in time.
In time,
he
probably
wouldn't be on the first ballot. There's a bunch of receivers that are better than him, but I think the report card shows enough that I believe his accolades would put him in the Hall of Fame in time. The right person can make the argument.
Yeah.
He's a very good focal point for Carson Wentz to focus on when throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it doesn't turn into a safety net and makes that whole team one-dimensional. Because that's kind of the vibe of Carson Wentz that I've gotten from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Is he finds one receiver, tight end, and he doesn't throw anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think you're right with that. I think Carson Wentz also needs to establish some better chemistry with his wide receivers because they're good, but he's got to do a better job of not only throwing to them when they are open, but leading them open and in their routes. So, because if you look at that wide receiving core they have now, T.Y. Hilton coming back, Zach Pascal, and Pittman as their main three wide receivers, and they're not bad. They're good wide receivers, but they need to be given more opportunities to throw. And I think this is not the game for them to really emerge. I mean, if they are to emerge this game, by all means, I think the Niners would be like, look, if you're going to beat us, it's going to be by throwing the ball. And because they're probably going to take away Jonathan Taylor because he's probably the best player on their offense at this point in time.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to take him away, and force Carson Wentz to throw the ball. This is going to be a physical game. I think Carson Wentz, this is going to be one of those games where he's going to have a very, very dirty jersey.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be on the ground a lot this game.
That offensive line will protect him.
But I don't know. I'm still on the fence of who to decide, but I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts on this game?
No, not really. That's going to be – I think that's one of the more clear locks of this week, honestly, especially now with Jimmy G coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the Colts getting past San Francisco.
Okay. Well, I want to move on to the final game that we want to talk about, and that is the Monday night game, and that is the Saints against the Seahawks. Now, we did talk about the Seahawks last week going into that primetime game against the Steelers, and the Seahawks played well in that game against the Steelers. They played well enough to force overtime and kind of go a pretty good distance in overtime as well. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, obviously, the Steelers were the better team. TJ Watt just insane, made that play at the end. But man, the Seahawks are in a very tough bind where they are right now. So Russell Wilson is expected to be out for, let's say, a month. He comes back in December.
Season's over.
Their season is very tough because we were looking at the Seahawks schedule, and so they play the Saints. Okay, if they want to compete, you have to win against the Saints. And the Saints, I have no idea. The Saints are a 50-50 team. Anytime I think they'll do good, they do bad. And anytime I think they'll do bad, I don't know. I don't know what to expect from them this year. But we'll get into the Saints just a little bit more. But for the Seahawks, for the remainder of their schedule, let's just do a quick win-loss. We're going to do a quick win-loss, okay? So they play the Saints.
Maybe.
They play against the Jags.
Sure.
Green Bay.
No.
Arizona.
No.
Washington.
No.
The 49ers.
No.
Houston.
No.
They could.
Yeah.
The Rams.
No.
Chicago.
No.
Detroit.
Yeah, maybe.
And then Arizona again.
No.
So with the absence of Russell Wilson, let's say they play Houston at the start of December. If they lose to New Orleans, Green Bay, Arizona, Washington, and the Niners, 5 games, they are in a heap of trouble. At that point in time, the question is, if Russell Wilson is healthy and the season is lost at that point, do you put him in?
You see, the thing is, I still feel like that comes down to if he is 100%. Again, if it is that bad and he isn't 100% come that time, he's going to continue to sit. But if he's 100% and there's a chance that they can win a couple more games before the end of the season, that's just the way it is. No one wants to play to lose.
Yeah.
There are teams in this league that play not to lose versus playing to win. We'll get into that eventually when we start talking about the teams that really play not to lose.
You will see it. Like there are some. Yeah, there are some teams that they play not to lose and they don't play to win. And we'll get more into that when we see a game that's more definitive like that, because you kind of see that in the NFL.
They've been more competitive this season. It's not as erupted in your face like last season.
There's a lot of competitive games this year.
Even with the winless Detroit Lions, they're competing
fighting
until they get thrown on their back.
Yeah, it was most of these games have been close games up until this past weekend. Yeah, we had a lot of blowouts, but man, it was. But the Seahawks,
they need help, and week 2, no Wilson. Their defense is still full of issues. DK Metcalf is unbelievable, but he needs to have a big game.
He is unbelievable, and also Alex Collins as well. Yeah. They're now starting running back. I have a soft spot for Alex Collins because he was on the Ravens at some point in time. He was, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. But he seems to have found a home in Seattle. And it seems like they need him to do work. And they're against the Steelers, you can actually see that they were kind of relying on him at a certain point. And I think that the Seahawks, we can kind of see that again against the Saints is they're going to kind of rely on their playmakers like Alex Collins and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But it's, can Geno Smith give them the ball? He's the one mystery where it's like, we know with Russell Wilson, he can get the ball to his playmakers, no problem. But Geno, I don't know.
That goes the same with the Saints, just like you were saying. Like, they are such a 50-50 team.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know which Saints team is coming back. And being that they're coming off of a bye week this week, you don't know which team's going to start the cycle. Are they going to start on a high or are they going to start on a low? So is it going to be a tell of the two bad quarterbacks come into play? Or is it going to be Jameis Winston, who he's been training under Sean Payton? You can tell because he has, you said 3 interceptions?
Well, I actually want to tell you Jameis Winston's stats real quick. He has 892 yards thrown this season, 12 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Only 3 interceptions, which by his standard,
amazing.
Great.
He's having a stellar season right now.
Yeah.
Compared to what he's had in seasons past,
yes.
30 for 30. 30 for 30.
30 for 30.
So, if he comes out and he plays, like he's been practicing, it's going to be a cool game for the Saints because that defense is so undisciplined. It's almost laughable.
Mm-hmm.
They get pulled for hard counts all the time. They have no zone coverage. They have no man coverage.
Except for Seattle's defense.
Yeah. And Jameis Winston's a good enough quarterback to see right through all that.
Yeah. Seattle is struggling on defense. In fact, they are having a historically horrible defense that they are actually on pace to give up the most yards by a team by the end of this year. They're on pace to do that. And this is, I think, this isn't going to be a game on Jameis Winston's shoulders. I think this is going to be a game on Alvin Kamara's shoulders. Mm-hmm. Because Alvin Kamara he's one of my favorite players to watch. He is absolutely sensational. And I think the Saints obviously have a better defense than the Seahawks. They have a much better defense than Seattle does. With that being said, Alvin Kamara is going to rip through that Seattle defense like tissue paper.
Yeah. Especially that front line.
If Najee, a rookie, was able to get over 100 yards, and with a Steelers team that is on running the ball, willing to run the ball, Sean Payton is going to be saying, look, Alvin Kamara, run this.
I also just want to point out again the age of our offensive line.
Yes.
Our left tackle is a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Our left guard is a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Our center has 4 years. Our right guard has 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Our right tackle has 3 years. Look at how young our offensive line is. And then a rookie running back is doing what he's doing now that it's in the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait until that offensive line has a couple years under their belt. And also, little anecdote. Who did Najee Harris train under?
Who?
Derrick Henry.
There you go.
There
you go. There's something in the
Alabama breeds super athletes.
They breed some incredible athletes in Alabama.
They're breeding another quarterback right now. There's another quarterback in Alabama who's playing absolutely out of his mind.
We'll get into that more in the offseason. But I do want to say, for Seattle's sake, it looks like if they can't win this game against the Saints, their season may ultimately be done because they have some pretty tough games ahead of them. The Saints, on the other hand, they're probably not going to win their division. That's probably going to go to Tampa. But if they want to be a wild card team, you got to stack the wins against the softer opponents. And that is what we were saying with Carolina and the Giants is if you want to make it in the playoffs, you have to win the games that you're supposed to. And for the Saints, I think obviously everyone kind of going before the season, everyone kind of expected Russell Wilson to be in this game. But now that Russell Wilson is out of this game, this is a game that the Saints should win.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
And for the Seahawks, it's
very bad foreshadowing for the rest of the season.
We'll see. But I think ultimately, if the Seahawks season is at a loss come December, at that point, in my opinion, just let Russell Wilson just rest up the rest of the season.
Right.
Let him be 100% next year so that you're not worrying about the longevity of his career, especially being that injury was on his middle finger on his throwing hand. So, with that being said, those are some of the games that we have our eyes on looking to watch this week. And right now, we are actually going to be picking the rest of these games. So are you ready to pick some games, Chris Paul?
Yeah, let's start with the Thursday night game.
Okay.
Denver versus Cleveland. What do you got?
You know what? No Baker Mayfield on Thursday, but Teddy B starting. You know what? I'm gonna just give it to Denver because I just don't like the Browns winning. It's the Raven in me.
You are so biased.
I know.
How can you not? Sorry, no. Even without Baker, Cleveland's the better team.
Nick Chubb is hurt. Kareem Hunt is hurt. Jarvis Landry's hurt. Their offense is very hurt.
But their defense is a lot better than that offense.
True. But
I gotta go with Cleveland. I'm sorry.
I respect it. I trust Teddy Bridgewater more than Case Keenum, personally.
I respect it. So, Cincinnati, Baltimore.
Baltimore, baby. Ravens are, I think, the better team, and Lamar is playing absolutely stellar. But I will say this, though, since Cincinnati is playing very well, and Joe Burrow is playing extremely well, and that combo of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, lethal. Very lethal, and they're probably going to get theirs in that game. So I wouldn't expect that.
Probably there, mate. They're going to get theirs, but I'm going to side with you because, again, I don't want to – it's going to hurt the day that it comes, and I'm hoping that you block it for another week, that Cincy takes hold of the division.
I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, that's an ugly thing.
I don't think it's happening. I hope not.
No, but you don't want to see them be number one at all. Ever.
Oh, God, no. Oh, God, no.
If you lose, they are number one in the division.
Yep.
So I'm giving you this hope that you hold them off for another week. It is up to the Ravens to hold them out another week. All right, moving on. New York Jets versus New England. Belichick comes home to collect rent from the Jets.
Yeah, I'm going with Billy. I'm going with Billy Bells and Mac Jones on this one.
Yeah.
They had a sensational game against the Cowboys, and they almost won it against the Cowboys. Jets just are a very lackluster team, and we'll probably talk more about the Jets later on in the season when
what they're doing wrong stuff.
When their stink really stenches it up. But with that being said, who are you taking?
I'm going to take New England, like I was saying, and that Bill Belichick is coming to collect rent from the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to go into who owns who, and apparently Belichick owns share in the Jets.
Yeah.
He has owned them for 20 years plus, and he will continue to do so until he retires. The Jets will always be his. Mm-hmm. So we got Carolina Giants.
You know what? I'm like I said before. This is a mirror match, and I can really see it going both ways. But I'm going to go with Sam Darnold, only because I just did not like what I saw from Daniel Jones, and he played very well up until that point. But I think both quarterbacks are going to be susceptible to turnovers. But I trust Sam Darnold to get less turnovers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. But the one thing is I haven't heard anything about Saquon coming back. And if Saquon comes back, that Carolina defense could have some issues. Mm-hmm. But until then, we don't know. And Carolina right now is the better team. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you on Carolina. But if Barkley comes back, it's going to be a much harder game than we expect.
Absolutely.
Next game we have is Atlanta versus Miami.
Again, this is another one of those games where it's kind of like a mirror match. Both teams are kind of struggling a little bit, and both teams kind of need to find their way. And I think this might be the game to do it. I'm going with Miami on this one. I liked the way Tua came back. I don't trust that they have no run game, but I trust Brian Flores as a coach more than I do with Atlanta. And I put a little bit more faith into it. And T, I believe in your fins, baby. I believe.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Miami as well. I definitely have more faith in the young quarterback that is Tua than I do Matt Ryan. I would like to see Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley try to do some things about that secondary. Maybe it'll shed the light bulb for Brian Flores to make some moves on the defensive side because Lord knows they need it.
They do.
But I also want to take another look at that defensive line and see them get after it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're going to really get after Matt Ryan, and I implore you and everyone else who's going to watch this game, watch out for that D line, man. They are very
ferocious.
They're tricky.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they're very ferocious. That they're very technical,
okay.
And they can really peel through a very stout offensive line.
Okay.
So a weakened offensive line being Atlanta, I think is going to have a lot more trouble than people see.
Okay. So you're taking Miami on that one?
I am taking Miami.
Okay, we're both Miami on that one.
Washington versus Green Bay.
Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are just going to be lighting it up. Like I said before, that Washington defense is good on paper, but they haven't been playing well this season. So I think Green Bay is going to exploit them.
I don't know about any type of exploitation. I just feel like that offense can't keep up. It's written in the stars that Aaron Rodgers is just going to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He's going up against Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Taylor Heineke. As good as you are playing,
you're not better than Rodgers.
You're not going to best Aaron Rodgers on his worst day.
No.
It's not going to happen. If you played them week one, you would lose. And he played like shit week one.
He did. He absolutely did.
He played like absolute garbage week one. And Taylor Heineke would not beat him.
No.
So I'm going with Green Bay.
Okay.
Kansas City versus Tennessee.
I think we may part ways on this one. I'm going KC on this one.
All right.
I think if it's going to be a shootout, I trust KC to win that shootout.
You see, if it's a shootout, then they really don't stand a chance, Tennessee, because Tannehill isn't the arm.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the arm to match, and they don't have the speed. A.J. Brown isn't as fast. He's the technical route runner, and Julio Jones is physical. He doesn't have the speed that can keep up with Tyreek Hill to run for 80 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see about that one. That was going to be very interesting. Philly versus Vegas. It's a tough one.
Who are you taking on this one?
This is a tough one.
I think I'm going to take the Raiders in this one because I trust Derek Carr, and even though he did have 2 hiccups after they won 3 in a row, you know what? I don't think Philly's defense is capable of really stopping them. Granted, the Raiders don't run a complicated offense. It's very simple. It's Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, if not Ruggs over the top. But you know what? I think Derek Carr has been the rock to the Raiders so far this year. Derek Rock.
Yeah, I agree with just about every point. I think Vegas is going to take this game, but again, we're going to see a very, very tough game from Philly, and if they come out just that much tougher than Vegas, they could eke this one out and win. It's going to be a scrappy game. This could turn out to be an upset for a lot of people that feel like Vegas is going to win this one by a landslide, and if they do feel that, they really don't know what they're watching in Philly.
Yeah.
Philly is a very tough team. Like I said a couple of weeks back, they're the team that gets punched in the mouth, they spit out the blood, they come back and punch you harder.
They are a physical team.
They fight.
They fight.
We got Detroit versus LA.
The Rams. Oh yeah, the Rams.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is Jared Goff playing Matt Stafford in there for the first time since swapping
jersey swap.
Since the jersey swap, he's like, "Hey, you're wearing my jersey. Hey, you're wearing my jersey. Wait a minute.
And Detroit's winless.
And Detroit is winless, and they will stay winless because the Rams are going to take this one.
I feel like this is going to be another embarrassing.
This might be a blowout.
This might be. Might be.
I give them a chance.
I see 35 coming from the Rams.
Yeah, I see that too.
I see 35 points coming out of the Rams.
I think Matt Stafford's going to be like, "Stay there, Jared Goff. You can't win there anymore."
You can't win there ever. So next game we got is Chicago versus Tampa.
Tampa. Chicago has the worst ranked offense going into this week. And as much as we like Justin Fields, he's just not going to get it done. And granted, that Bucs defense can be thrown on, but I don't think Justin Fields can unlock that code to do that.
Not this year.
Not this year.
This isn't the year.
No.
Give him another couple years and he'll be a stout quarterback. But it's unfortunate that he's playing Tom Brady this week.
Yeah. So I'm taking Tampa on that. You're taking Tampa on that?
Yeah. Okay. We're both taking Arizona, right?
What they got?
Arizona versus Houston. Guys.
Yeah. Oh, Arizona.
This is, again, there's a couple of locks. This is going to be
a lock.
You want to watch a show of just pure entertainment that's going to be on one side. If you're a Cardinals fan, you're going to have a great time. If you're a Houston fan, you're going to drink heavily. Yeah. And it's just really what's going to happen.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
It's just like everyone's drinking problems.
Including the alcoholism.
So, yeah, Arizona's going to win that one. I see a possible 40-piece coming out of Arizona. Mm-hmm. That game's not going to be close. Next game we got is Indianapolis versus San Francisco. Yeah. Jimmy G returns.
You know what? Being that we found out that Jimmy G returns, I thought Trey Lance was starting.
No, he's still out with a knee sprain.
Exactly, but he's out. And then we found out Jimmy G's starting. I am picking the 49ers to win this game. I think Jimmy G is going to come back, win this game, and kind of show that, like, look, he's back.
Yeah, again, I'm right there with you. You know me, I'm not big into Carson Wentz. They played great against Houston. San Francisco's a much better team than Houston, much better coach, much better defense, much better quarterback. Jimmy G I think he's gonna light the house up in Indy. Mm-hmm. So I think San Francisco all the way.
Okay. And with that brings us to our last game, and that is the Saints and the Seahawks. And I'm going with the Saints on this one. I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a big day, and I just don't think Geno can really get it done.
You know what? I'm going to go out on the wing of a prayer here.
What the hell are you smoking, boy?
We'll talk. I don't know.
You feeling it? You smelling it?
I've been thinking about this game and, again, how they played against Pittsburgh.
You smelling an upset?
I think I smell an upset.
What the fuck, man?
I think I smell an upset.
I think you smell. You might be smelling burnt toast. You might be having a stroke, mate. But if you put your faith in Geno Smith, by all means, go for it.
That's an ugly tongue.
You put your faith in Geno?
I don't know. That's a tough one, baby.
You got 3 seconds. 3.
No, New Orleans.
2. Okay, he's got no faith in Geno. As they say in New York, Geno's going to Geno.
So, guys, there you have it. That is our week. That is what we have for the predictions. If you guys feel that you agree with us, disagree with us, feel free to leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. I am Chris Palmer. This is John Halpin. This is Let's Talk Football. I'm ready for this week. I hope you are.
I am too, my brother. Let's get it.
Hope you guys enjoyed.